Welcome to the Convince Me podcast, where we're on a mission to convince you to step outside of your gaming comfort zone and try something new. Let's get to convincing. Last week, Ryan and I had a time because my game was dope and Ryan couldn't touch his, and he couldn't touch his second try. So he settled for trying to convince me to play Roguebook. I attempted to convince him to play Tunic, and man, what a wild ride that was. Because the funny thing is, I told him this after the fact. If he had told me that car car mechanic simulator, had been a game that actually taught you things about cars and like how to do maintenance and things like that, he would have convinced me immediately because I also know precious little about doing anything like that. Unfortunately, those simulator games are in fact true, authentic simulators and seem to require a certain degree of base knowledge. So that just wasn't to be,
No.
unfortunately. But this week we are back for the second iteration of Convince Me to Go Back, where Ryan and I have chosen games from our childhoods that we really wanted to play as kids and simply, for whatever reason, didn't have the means, the logistics, something that just prohibited us from being able to experience them at the time. And so Ryan will be attempting to convince me and the rest of you to play Doom 3 by id Software. Well-known franchise at this point, doesn't really require a ton of background information. I will attempt to convince Ryan to play Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver by Crystal Dynamics, a franchise that I think, honestly, in this current resurgence of like darker themed, vampiric, eldritch games, I would honestly love to see a proper franchise resurgence of this. But we'll talk more about that a little bit later.
Yeah. Uh, well done. But there's a story that's been on my mind since my wife told me just a little bit before we started recording,
Oh dear.
and just people say such bizarre things.
Actually, yes.
So my wife is at the store with our son, and she's in the produce section. And naturally, when you go to produce to get, whatever produce you're getting, you get the bags to put it in. So there was a gentleman who was there and let Sarah, like, I think there might have been like a loose bag or something. So the gentleman in front of her was like, "Hey, you can have this bag." She was like, "Oh, thanks." So this guy was like, I like, he let her had it. He let her have it because he likes to do this. And so he ripped the bag and did the, like a flap. So it cracked because you can make those bags make noises. And so he told Sarah when he did that, he was like, "Yeah, you gotta crack that whip." When he did it with the bag. To this lady he doesn't know at a grocery store with her child in the stroller or in the grocery cart, and our son looks at my wife and goes, "Why did he say gotta crack that whip?" And she was just like, "We're gonna go this way now." So, but my thing is there are only, like, let's be honest, there's two contexts some to what he was talking about, and neither one is okay to talk about with a stranger. So, you know, strangers, people be weird.
Oh man, the snarky voices in my head. Intrusive thoughts, intrusive thoughts. Do you think he knows your son's half black? Because that would have made it so much worse. Like,
No, no, no. He's
no, I
too.
mean obviously, I want to, in my naive heart of hearts, think that it's because it's like the discipline crack the whip. Or maybe he just likes to make big noise and that's him stimming. I don't know. Was he an employee of the
No.
grocery store? Oh
No.
no, no.
It,
Well.
It's just you
I
you
wish I wish him a blessed day.
you ever just be you just ever in a situation where like you're trying to make banter and you don't know how to do it, so you just say something that pops off your head, and then for the rest of the day after you say it, you're just hyper focusing on that one dumb thing you said. I wonder if this dude just spent the rest of
You
the day just going, I hope she didn't take that the wrong way.
Oh no, because people, anybody who that thought would even cross their mind, is so blissfully unaware that anyone could take it another way,
That's
other
fair.
than whatever the intention was. See, for me, that phenomena only really happens at like drive-throughs,
Enjoy
where
your
they're
food. Yeah,
like,
you too.
"Thanks, enjoy your food. You too. Hey, thanks, come again. Oh, thanks, you too."
You just go stupid, stupid, stupid. Just driving away,
And just
dreading on it.
drive away. An absolute shame. It was so much worse with my first car, from high school through grad school, because of course I didn't have power windows. So not only did I just say something stupid, I got to sit there and like Scooty Puff Jr. my window back up the whole time while I hang my head, and I'm this combination of ashamed and really angry. It just
That is awful. Oh man.
so many core memories involved those power windows, man. Let me tell you,
Have a good day. Yeah,
or
you
those
too.
manual windows. Okay, don't look, don't look at me, don't look at me. I literally had somebody at a Chick-fil-A drive-through in Port Orange, Florida. Now, mind you, Chick-fil-A usually younger ends of kids, right? We're probably sub
Yeah.
23. I don't think that's strange to say. This kid was probably in high school, and I was clearly his first time ever in real life seeing manual windows. And so he looked at me while I was rolling my window down and went, "Are you serious?" I was like, "What?" She said, "Did you just actually roll your window down?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." That's so cool. I'm like, "Thanks, Michael. Can I have my French fries?"
Yeah, I got the
My pleasure.
biceps of a god.
My pleasure.
So, your brain just sometimes does things that you don't mean it to. And that brings us to our question of the week, because the question of the week is, when you think of nostalgic gaming, whatever that means to you, what game like pops into your head instinctively? I have mine. Mine is pretty straightforward. I think anybody who knows me would most likely know what it is, but you know.
So for me, I would say my first real moment. So this question goes two different directions for me, right? Because some of my earliest memories of video games are Pokemon, of course, and that comes as no surprise to anybody who knows me. But where I really go when I think of nostalgic gaming per se is I actually go to Halo 2. And Halo 2 because when me and my friends that I grew up close to, because for those who don't recall, Ryan and I did not grow up close together,
We glue up.
and we grew up. Back in the day, a half hour, 45-minute ride in the car felt like an eternity away, whereas now that's an inconvenience, if anything. Um, but my friends and I, we would get together at one friend's house, and their house was pretty big, especially for that time in our lives where we could really appreciate things like that.
Yeah.
And every one of us had an Xbox, and a couple of us would bring other TVs, but they had enough monitors that we could use, and we used to do 16-person multiplayer LAN parties playing Halo 2. And that for me was the first time that I ever felt like video games are such a cool thing to bring people together in that way back in the day when that was what you had to do to play big multiplayer lobbies.
Yeah.
And it was just against your friends and everything was local. I honestly think the idea of local co-op now, outside of maybe Super Smash Brothers, It honestly feels very off-putting to me, simply because the idea of split screening when I'm used to a whole screen by myself for X number of generations of consoles now, I guess four generations of consoles where we've been able to do things not in split screen. I mean, it's the idea is very off-putting to me now, but even just the idea of split screen multiplayer local LAN party situations, that to me was is where my mind goes when I think of like happy memories of video games. It's some of the only memories of video games I have with other people, because
I
I am predominantly a single player game type of person.
I am mine. I'm still stuck on the fact that you knew 16 people well enough to be able to get together, or 15 other people well
Look,
enough
man,
to get together
look,
and spend
man.
time together.
My circle in high school was pretty big, to be
No,
honest.
not me. I was a social butterfly, but goodness gracious, once that bell ended, time to go home. Um, that's fun though. I do think I feel like local co-op absolutely still has a place. It absolutely has a place. If for no other reason than three sets of people, friends obviously, but also significant others and like parents playing with their kids. You know, like uh, I'm not gonna go get a whole other system to play with my son when he gets old enough to be playing. Like I'm not gonna do that. But shout out to games that still allow that. Like It Takes Two, Way Out, all those games. Wasteland 3 that came out a few years ago does it. Obviously, Borderlands does local. Diablo has local. So like there are still some games that are clinging to that local
Baldur's
co-op.
Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3, goodness gracious, great game. For me, it would be no surprise to anybody that it's Ocarina of Time because one, it was the first game I played. No, that's not true. Donkey Kong Country was the first game I played where I was like, oh my gosh, music is holy cow, uh, a big thing. But Ocarina of Time had everything for me. It had going on a grand adventure, the music to top it off, the feeling of saving the princess, really being a hero, a true blue hero was what Ocarina of Time gave me. And I still remember those winter days where my brother's friend had to come over and he had to help me beat Jabu Jabu to get the water stone. And I vividly remember it being during a snow day, so there was snow outside. And he came over, and my next door neighbor and I would go outside and build forts and have snowball fights and do all this stuff while he was playing with my brother and some friends of theirs. And then I remember coming inside, and he was like, hey, Ryan, go get me some water." And I was like, "What? You're in my house?" And he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this part of Zelda for you." And I was like, "Okay." And so and I got him some water. So like, it's those core memories that are specifically stem from Zelda, Ocarina of Time, that my brain goes to because I I remember so much about that game, and I've beaten it so many times, and it just that's where my brain goes because it was the first time a lot of things happened for me. Like it was, I remember beating Ocarina of Time, and you have that fight where there's that wall of fire, and Zelda is outside, and you're in the final fight, and the music is hitting just right. When you get hit, Zelda like freaks out. You hear her scream of like of the distress that she's in because she cares for you. It's like you truly feel like the fate of the world is on the line and you are going up against all odds, which is a feeling that video games can specialize in. And it was so well done. And so yeah, that's where my brain goes. But with that said, um, we're going from a game that I know very well, Ocarina of Time, to a game that I'd seen everywhere, heard of, and never played, being Doom 3 by id Software, who really specializes in four IPs. Wolfenstein is one of them, but I think that has now moved on to Bethesda. I think Wolfenstein is no longer id Software's thing. I don't even think it's. No, id Software's still doing stuff, but I don't know if like the newer Wolfensteins are still id, but they're known for that, Quake, and Rage, as well as Doom. And so, as you can tell by those four IPs, they really specialize in FPSs.
Oh. id Software is not owned by Bethesda. However, they're both owned by ZeniMax, which is now
ZeniMax.
owned by Microsoft. So they are, while Wolfenstein may have potentially been taken over by Bethesda, that's still under the same ZeniMax umbrella. It just seems like they switched
Yeah, right.
studios over.
Which makes sense. Thank you for confirming. Um, but yes, they specialize in FPSs, and you can feel that even as far back as Doom 3. So Doom 3 was Windows 360 PS3 era. And so its actual release date was August of 2004. Goodness gracious. This game is old enough to drink. So, almost. But yeah, the feel of this game, I don't I think it must have been updated for like remastered, I think, because if how the game played and felt now is how it looked and played and felt then holy cow, they were ahead of their time, which makes sense. So, Doom 3, for those who don't know, is a boomer shooter. Boomer shooter is pretty much a game that focuses on running and gunning with a little bit of story sprinkled in. Because let's be honest, you're not playing Doom, you're not playing Wolfenstein, you're not playing Quake, you're not playing them for the story. There is a story there, but your reasoning for playing these games is to run and gun. I think the Doom tagline "Rip Tear Kill." I'm Rip and Tear. There you go. Rip and Tear is Doom's thing, and goodness gracious, is it on display for this game. So the game starts off with showing you Mars, and you play as the Doom guy landing. And when you get off, you get a PDA ID card, basically. For those who don't know, a PDA was a personal digital assistant, personal digital assistant. It was basically tablets before tablets. And on this tablet or PDA, you see that it has your name, but underneath where the Doom guy's name would be, it has your gamer tag. So my gamer tag was presented under his name. So the story is that the Union Aerospace Corporation has been given free reign to unlimited money, unlimited resource to do whatever they wanted. And so now they have a military base on Mars, and they have access to crazy, crazy, crazy advanced technology. And so you notice as you're going through, and you get like different news segments and people on Mars as you're walking around this space station. They're talking, and you figure out that the military presence on Mars is growing, like your people, and you're not entirely sure why. And you are going through the space, you're meeting new people, you can press Y to talk to people, people respond to you. Like, there's this dude coming out of a bathroom as I was exploring, and he said, stopped walking and said, "Oh, excuse me." Like, he reacted to you being in front of him. And I'm like, for a 360 game, that's really cool. And so the facial animations are very of their time, which obviously, but they're not bad. There's a little bit of like bug-eyedness from their eyes and things like that. The mouth motion capture, it is what it is. It's fine. And the thing I noticed as I was going and exploring this space station is the movement is so daggone fluid. It felt so nice to control, and you can tell that id specializes in shooters just from how it felt to play this game. And so, yeah, you're exploring the space station, and you meet people who are on this space station, and you eventually get your mission, which is that there is a team that's gone missing, and so you go to explore the headquarters, and there's something off as you go a bit deeper into the space station, and I didn't get to the point where like you're actually told exactly what it is, but for those who don't know, Doom typically like involves like hell and fiends from hell and monsters and things like that. It's pretty like demon focused, um, and so you get to a point where you get to find this you also need to find a scientist. You get to the scientist, and something goes wrong, and there's something in the center of this room, and it explodes, and you see that people are beginning to become possessed. So they're kind of zombie-esque, and the game starts, and R2 shoots your weapon. L2 turns on your flashlight. There is no ADS. There's
What?
no aim down sights in Doom. Because Doom is all about just go and fire your weapon. That is it. And you know that that's what the focus is. Because when I first got the shotgun, like, normally when you get a new weapon in a game, like, you're not given that much ammo because you've got to go scrounge for it, find it. I had 80 shells when I first picked up the shotgun to go nuts with. The game is all about just blasting and exploring, to go find secrets, to get armor, to get armor shards, to get all these things, to find more ammo. It is literally just a pick your favorite weapon and just blast demons in the head. That is the entire point. That is why you play. And it was really cool going through the space station because I played Doom, like the original Doom, obviously forever ago. But it was very cool seeing the 360's rendition of these monsters from the original Doom. Like the brown red-eyed demon that like throws fireballs, and the zombie soldier that shoots the shotgun. Like those are the starting enemies, and it's really cool seeing that era's rendition, like seeing them in 3D. Um, I noticed that the AI was smart. Something I noticed, because the dudes who had the weapons, they weren't just coming out and just running at you so you could gun them down. They would get down behind cover and pop up and shoot at you. When I fired my shotgun, they would, I guess the computer like would read my input and have them jump out of the way so they could dodge your weapon. They weren't just bullet sponges standing there waiting to get shot. They actually moved with some semblance of like
Intention.
intention and trying to preserve themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's not a military shooter, so they're not going to be using crazy tactics, but like for a 360 game with the enemies using cover and moving out of the way and dodging and like avoiding your attacks where you have to be intentional with where you're shooting, that's really cool to see. Um, and so I mean it is about as straightforward as you get. You are a run and gun player. That is your, like, you just want to go bombastic and blast dudes. And Doom is the perfect series for that. And Doom 3 is it did something that I wasn't used to in a Doom game, because I beat Doom Eternal, played a decent amount of Doom. I started Doom Dark Ages, played a ton of the original Doom 1 and 2. Um, but it had reloading. I wasn't used to that in a Doom game. Because in every other Doom, you just fire till you're out of ammo. There's no reloading. There's none of that. It's just boom, 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 boom. You just keep going. You get more ammo. You don't have to worry about being out. This game actually had reloading, and part of me wonders, um, and this could be wrong. No, not the case. I don't know. I'm not sure why they decided to do that, or if it was at the time what the choice was. But yeah, it had reloading, which was very interesting in a Doom game for me. The There's one funny thing that I noticed. You can climb ladders. First person shoe with the gun out. You go to the ladder, and your character just rises up, gun out, and I'm like, how's he climbing that ladder? But no, it's a small thing. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I mean, there's tons of different exploration things you can do. There was a point I was actually on the phone with you as I was playing where I was kind of lost because there's no map, and sometimes the areas can be a little labyrinthian. But I mean, eventually I found my way. It wasn't enough to like really take down my enjoyment of the game because you move so freaking fast and the movement feels so good to use that I didn't mind running around a little bit and seeing what other secrets I could find um, and whatnot. So yeah, it's a you go shoot dudes in the face, like that's the point. Um, I forgot the some more controls. Right bumper, left bumper, switch your weapons. R3 is crouch. L3 actually allows you to sprint, which is another thing I wasn't super used to in Doom games, because in Doom games I've played, movement is movement. You're just running fast no matter what. But it actually had a sprint meter that depleted as you were sprinting, which was interesting for a Doom game for me. Um, Y was jump, I believe. I might be mixing up Y and A. It might have. I think it was A because Y was how you interacted with like computers and things. X was how you
Mm-hmm.
reloaded. Um, and I'm blanking on what B did. But yeah, it was really cool because there are PDAs. This it
Was
also
B
had
melee?
no. You could switch to hands, so they could the demons could catch some hands. But I'm I'm blanking on what it was. But the game had environmental storytelling, kind of, because there were PDAs that were audio files that you could listen to while running through the levels. But it was interesting because the PDAs also, some of them, offered codes to different lockers that give you access to other new, like more ammo, and you could get more armor and things like that. So you were rewarded for listening to the audio logs that you found around the map, which is really cool. So yeah, great time. If you're looking for just mindless, let me go shoot stuff, it would be kind of challenging to do much better than any of the Dooms, but definitely this one.
Does the soundtrack hold up to newer iterations of like the heavy metal everything? Or is this game still more atmospheric than like the heavy metal we've come to expect from Doom?
A bit more atmospheric. It definitely has the one man army feel, but it's not as like. I don't think it would be unfair to say that the new Dooms are edgy, but not in like the '90s way of edgy, like leather jacket, spiked hair edgy, but like it did what it needed to do. This Doom is definitely atmospheric. It actually, I would dare say that it even has not horror, but like horror adjacent elements. Some eldritch, some like there was one moment where I got to a door and there was one of the enemies literally right on the other side of the door, and so I like moved my character back instinctively and it jump scared me a little bit, but there was no like sound cue. It was just, open door and then dudes in your face. So like stuff like that. Dudes will crouch around corners, and if you aren't checking your corners, you'll get popped by them. So you really got to be aware of your surroundings. The soundtrack um, definitely helped with the atmosphere of what it was going for. It's not as, like I said, edgy, but like, yeah, man, it felt like you're a marine on Mars killing demons.
Sure. Fun fact: there's a gun in Borderlands 3 that is a Doom reference.
BFG.
That's not a Borderlands gun.
Oh.
No, it would be the Hellwalker shotgun from Borderlands 3. And every time you shoot it, it plays a nasty heavy metal guitar chord.
Nice.
But it's
Nice.
also probably one of the strongest weapons in the game, depending on character and build.
It
Just
better
as the
be.
shotgun in Doom usually is.
Doom guys, man, dude's not a joke.
No, no. I would be interested if there was a way of like simulating this, like Deadliest Warrior style. Shout out History Channel,
Doom
Deadliest
and
Warrior,
Doom and Kratos.
Doom guy. No, Doom guy and Master Chief.
I don't think Master Chief has gone through and fought the armies of hell.
Nobody has fought the Flood, and I don't know if you remember the Flood from Halo 2 and those little like parasite things skittering at you, just in the sheer volume of them. Those things suck.
Just because they're gross. I don't know, man.
Oh,
Fighting
and
through
terrifying and numerous.
hordes of demons, literally going to hell and killing them to the point where the demons fear the Doom guy's name. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Hard to
That'd
say.
be.
And we'll never
We'll
know.
never know. Never
We
know.
will never know. Funny enough, I've actually Doom 3 is one of the only ones I've ever played any of. Ever. I don't remember it well. I remember it. Um, and I do remember it being good. It's just at the time it took me a long time in life growing up to be able to be like, I don't know, adventurous with some darker stuff. Um,
Sure.
and so probably, I mean, it wasn't until, gosh, college, maybe, if I tried to play Doom again, then it would have been good for me. I just, I found that I didn't understand Doom well, and so I spent so much of the game just waiting to be jump scared and hate it. So I'm pretty sure I hated it at the time.
Oh,
Um,
you thought it was a straight up horror game? Is that what you were thinking?
no, no, I just thought it was going to, like, I don't know, I guess affect me more
Hmm.
than it obviously ever would have. I don't know,
N-
man. I was impressionable
Now you're a
back
big boy.
then.
You've seen The Conjuring and everything.
Yeah. Uh, never again.
I
Never
still haven't.
again.
I can't
That's
believe you got
fine.
talked into that. Um,
Talked in is generous.
Forced,
Talk Talked in
coerced.
is generous. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, Doom 3, great time. If you're looking for just another run and gun game that's free to download on Game Pass, I mean, you could do
Yep.
much worse.
For sure.
And I think it'll be there forever
Forever.
because it's
First
Microsoft.
party game.
So
Yep.
yeah, I think you're good.
Yep. Okay. So, Legacy of Kain. So, this game originally came out for both the PlayStation and Windows, and was later ported to the Dreamcast.
PS
1999. PlayStation 1. Yeah.
because 2 was came out in '01. PS2 came out '01.
Yes, that
Yeah.
sounds right. Again, Dreamcast being around for that long is still weird. Um,
No,
but
2000.
anyway, it was too okay. Anyway, um, I never had the original PlayStation, and I certainly never had Windows, and I never owned a single Sega console. And so this game for me always seemed so like interesting. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the novelty of playing as like this dark, deformed creature, even though I didn't love dark stuff back then. It just seemed it appealed to my very specific type of edgy. Um, and so the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver is a game that actually takes place after the events of Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. And so it's really a continuation, and you kind of feel that if you've not played Blood Omen, like certainly I have not, which I do believe is actually available on PlayStation Plus right now. Um, however, the game starts with the first thing that truly surprised me, which was voice acting. I was not prepared for voice acting. And I went and did some looking, and from what I see, and this may be incorrect, but from what I see, it seems as though the original game may also have been voice acted. So voice acting in the 90s and it not being like a King's Quest game is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Um, and it was, and voice acting was actually pretty good. For transparency's sake, I played the remastered version because it is currently one of the monthly games that you can get with the $11.99 Humble Bundle subscription. For those who are curious, definitely a great consideration if you have Steam,
Mm.
something to play Steam games on, and the disposable, $12 a month. For example, Dungeons of Hinterberg is one of the games for June. So if it's a game you wanted to own and it's there, I mean now's your time. Humble Bundle is a great service anyway.
$12 for
Simply
like
because they
200+ dollars of games is crazy.
Oh yeah, I think there are 8 game offerings this month, of which I believe I have claimed 6 of them. Because the other two are one is kind of co-op-y and definitely involves mouse and keyboard, which I don't play on. And the other one is more horror, and that's obviously not for me. But
Shame.
good games all the same. Anyway, so with this game, you are watching the story unfold of Kain, who is this like overbearer vampire lord, effectively, as I understand it. And he's raising up his lieutenants, and the story is being told through one of his lieutenants, Raziel, which great name, by the way,
That
a
is a great name.
wonderful vampire lieutenant name.
Great name.
Shout out to whoever came up with Raziel as a name for a character ever. Um, and the story goes right at the beginning that you kept evolving. Apparently, you all started off as humans, and Kain acquired more of a sense of divinity, and so too did the lieutenants acquire divinity over as time went on. You became more powerful. Raziel was the first of the lieutenants to surpass Kain, and you see him sprout these great, typical vampire bat wings. Kain comes up from behind him and just yoinks them off of you, and then casts you into effectively the spiraling soul abyss, similar to the portrayal of the underworld from the original Hercules movie in '97, where it's just that like down spiral of souls. Um, and you as a vampire, and per the lore in this game, as soon as you go, your flesh just disintegrates because water bad for vampires. You lose
Running
all your
water, yeah.
powers, and you effectively die. And you're all of a sudden you hear this disembodied, dark, deep voice speaking to you, and you appear in front of what I can only describe as this eldritch horror being.
I'm in.
Yeah, I figured that effectively saves you, puts your body in this like low tier, somewhat disintegrating corpse, and just drops you into this dungeon and says, "Okay, go." And this is now tutorial dungeon where you go through. You learn some of your movement mechanics. You learn that you can beat things up with the X button. I was playing with an Xbox controller, though it was a Steam game. Um, and you come into another room and you find some of your other, you know, I guess they call them your brother's creations. And you're introduced to some of the more interesting mechanics for the fact that this was, again, a PlayStation 1 game from 1999. Some of the enemies you cannot just beat by mashing your melee button. Some of them you have to actually lure into these beams of sunlight that will immediately set them on fire. But more than that, if you fight them and position them close, there's wall-mounted spikes, and it says specifically that impaling them can do it, as can throwing them into water. And there are animations from 1999 of you bop bop bop, and then picking enemies up and thrusting them into wall spikes where they disintegrate.
That is
Is so cool.
wait, environmental based animations.
Environmental based interactions and animations in 1999 by Crystal Dynamics, now owned by the Embracer Group. Yeah, so wait, because we keep going. Um, Eventually, again, you maintain these ideas the whole time, right? So there's some enemies that you can just beat and bludgeon, and then they die. And when they die, they turn incorporeal, and so you can hold down the B button and you basically consume their soul. That then becomes a very important mechanic because the consuming the soul restores your health, but it does something else that I'll come to in just a second. But the ways that you interact with and actually beat enemies continues as you progress, where you must either impale or set them on fire or find a way to push them into water. And so then, throughout the world, you just happen upon torches on the wall, which you can use as a melee weapon. And when they're starting to fall apart, you press the Y button, and you have a special animation with the torch where you set them on fire, and the torch is extinguished. So you must then go find another just campfire or bonfire and reignite your torch if you want to continue to use that as weapon, or you press the Y button again and just yeet it at an enemy.
That's
There's
funny.
also spears on the wall where there is a dedicated animation for each one of the combos, and then as you press Y with the spear, you thrust in and lift up and plant it, and then they die. So each one of these weapons kind of has a unique appearance, and if it's in the spear family or like the torch family, you can pick up rocks and pots and bludgeon them with those too. But like there's different animations for different weapons from a game from 1999
That's pretty dope. That's pretty
in
cool.
a third person
Oh,
weird character. We'll call it a precursor character action game. I'll call it a precursor just because I personally have a hard time looking at character action games as they are now pre Devil May Cry. So I don't know. It probably is technically character action, but like it is what it is. Um, and yeah, so you progress. There are different gates that you find that allow you to fast travel. There are cinematic storytellings of things, whereas you enter into a new area, you get the overview shot with again voice acting, very narrative driven, pretty deep, excuse me, narrative as well. But what gets interesting is some of the puzzle solving mechanics is you are Raziel as a spirit. And you get very like right at the beginning of the game, you get this ability to become corporeal and effectively assume a material body. But you can only maintain that form so long as you have health in your spiral. So you have to defeat enemies in the world and absorb it to extend your time. Um, if you go too long without any of that, you go back to the spirit world. If you take too much damage, you get brought back to the spirit world. But there's puzzle solving mechanics where you have to go between them intentionally because in some cases in the spirit version of where you are, there are different paths
oh man. Hold on.
forward. And
It's
so it actually leads to pretty deep. Okay,
the internet.
good.
Like it, your video keeps like cutting out. It's only happened like one time, but it was fine. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, but the puzzle mechanics are actually pretty deep with your ability to travel between. You can actually only go from from non corporeal to corporeal if you have a full health gauge. So you have to try to find souls to absorb or other enemies. Like there are wraiths that you can fight in your spirit form, or you can't even become corporeal again for you to be able to access these powers. And so there's other powers you unlock throughout the course of the game. I saw there's a swimming one that allow you to just do other things, access areas that you couldn't before. And the game is it's pretty deep in that way. However, where we come to my first and really biggest qualm is that there's also no map really, and there's no clear indicator often of what you're actually supposed to be doing in some of these rooms. Sometimes it's obvious, you're just looking for a way to go forward. Other times it's, well, I had this thing that I could interact with and it worked and it changed the world around me, but I can't tell if that was the right thing that I interacted with because I still can't move forward. And so then you have to circle back and do it all over again. When you save and quit, it actually brings you back to the original nexus that you started the game in. And then you have to use those fast travel gates to get to the gate closest to where you were. So you have to try to remember where that was, and the only indication is its symbols on the gates themselves that you then pass through. And so you still end up having to trek back to where you probably actually saved. So where you saved will save the progression of what you've done, but it won't keep
Yeah.
you where you were, right? Which, I mean, pretty classic. I'm sure that's a console limitation. It was probably a limitation of RAM, but in 2025, that's a little inconvenient for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you put the game down for a couple days or weren't even really sure what you were doing before. So to try to remember what you were doing and what you should be doing is a little difficult
I
at
mean,
time.
yeah. Go, Going back to Doom 3, I think that is something that Doom really excels in, is because, like I said, you're not playing for the story. Like, there's a story, but being
Yeah.
run and gun, so like you can definitely take your breaks in between. It sounds like Legacy of Kain. You have to. It almost sounds like you might need a notebook, which is what we used to do back in the day, is to write down
Yeah.
either level passwords or your route through these gates to try and remember where you were or whatever, which,
Yep.
gosh, that takes you back.
Yep. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fun, it's good. I was ill prepared to have to bring myself back to, mentally the type of game that I was playing, when I was 8 years old. So to put myself into that mindset, although when I was 8 years old, I wouldn't have down because I just had that kind of memory then.
I've
Um,
never had good memory.
I wish I still did, unfortunately. But all that is to say, it holds up very well. I honestly found myself. I mean this in the nicest way. Um, this game that's a whole console generation behind and 2 years before is a substantial better game than Blinks the Time Sweeper.
Wait,
Like by a lot. By a lot.
was Legacy of Kain before
In
Blinks?
1999. 1999. That's a whole console generation before. The original Xbox didn't come out until the 2000s. 2001, I believe. October 2001.
Blinks catching
So,
strays.
homie, best believe Blinks will catch strays at any possible opportunity. The only thing it has going for it is that he's a cat. Um, but no, honestly, I found myself very impressed that this game that was this old. Don't get me wrong, it shows its age for sure,
They're gonna.
but in the time of all these modern, graphical engines and $100 million budgets, this game from 1999 still plays very well, is cheaper, and will keep you entertained. If nothing else, I mean, give it to your little brother. It's fine, whatever. Um, but it's a good game. Uh,
I
my
mean, it's
favorite part of the game actually is the degree to which the soundtrack fits, because it's like dark. I don't even know how to explain it. Um, Dark, atmospheric, but also very rhythmic. So like beats you can bop your head to, but also still dark and fit the theme of being, vampire turned wraith set on a revenge story.
fair enough. Any organs?
None that I got to. I don't know if I got to any bosses big enough to justify a pipe organ, but that's not to say it's not impossible. Kind of some organs though, because you do disembowel some stuff, sort of. So like in that way, there's organs, but you know, it's all
Human.
good. But
I
no, I honestly, as far as games that you have access to, $12, 11.99 on Humble Bundle. This being one of the games that is an available offering. I mean, it's for sure something that I would heavily and pretty happily suggest for anybody
it's
who at least has an appreciation for where games were and where we are now.
if so when I'm subscribed to a lot of subreddits, and I'm subscribed to like gaming suggestions and like things like that. And Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and 2 are games that are constantly brought up on like boards about what to play next. I played this game and this game. What should I try next? Or what game comes to your mind when you think of this generation? Like, it is so constantly brought up, um, that like I'm not surprised that you had fun with it based on everything I've seen and heard about it. It was one of those games. There are certain games that I recall by box art and GameStop, because I was the kid
Yeah,
back in the day when malls were a thing, where my parents needed to do shopping or whatever, and I was the kid. It's awful because no one likes that kid, but I was the kid that would just be in GameStop just looking at covers. I didn't bother anybody. Like, I think when I got older, I tried to like talk to the employees or whatever, but for the most part, I was just in there enjoying box art. And Legacy of Kain was box art that I so constantly saw. Um, so yeah, it was definitely one that I always wanted to try, but I had to be so picky and choosy with what I got, and it was rated. It's not rated M, is it? It's probably rated M.
I have to think it was,
It's gotta
right?
be right.
Let's look.
Uh, it is, yeah, rated M. So yeah,
Yes, it sure was.
my parents were gonna give me that. So yeah, I'm absolutely convinced. I mean, like, I have the Humble Bundle, so it's on list of things I have. But as always, our issue is that Darren and I really only have between now and August, so like a month and a half ish, 2 months ish, of like we get to play what we want, because this August and on is it is all gas, dude. It is all gas starting in August.
That Xbox showcase didn't do any favors either,
No,
honestly.
no.
I mean, I there were some titles that I just did not expect, and they looked so good.
Clockwork Revolution looks so
That's the one.
freaking cool.
That's the one. I don't think I've been as excited about a game that I knew so little about. Probably
Since Clair
honestly,
Obscure.
that's not fair. Since Clair Obscure, the last game I was that excited about that I knew nothing about was 100% Clair Obscure.
And it's funny that we always go back to Clair Obscure and Xbox, because
Mm.
Gaming Bible put out an article. They're not the only one. A ton of people are talking about it. But Xbox is apparently, based on some things people have seen, Xbox is moving away from physical disc, which hurts Darren and I's hearts a lot, because we are people. I don't mind buying a digital game. Like, if it's a game that I'm like, oh, this seems cool, I might play this. I might want to try it. It goes on sale digitally. I'll get it, and then it's there for me to play when I have time or when I want to play it. But there are certain games that my brain is like, I need to own it physically. I have to own this physically. And the fact that all these games at the Xbox showcase that a lot of them might not have a physical version, it hurts my soul. Like Clockwork Revolution, if it's as good as I think it's gonna be, oh my gosh, I'd love to own that. But based on how the article was written by Lewis Parker, and apparently a user on Reddit spotted um, that it seems that the games are just codes in a box. And
Mm-hmm.
further down in the article, it says that none of the games have been assigned an SKU or SKU code, and those are codes that are assigned to physical goods, so stores can keep track of them. And none of these games have been assigned SKU codes, which is further indication that they may not. It may just be a code that you're given, which,
Yeah,
like, I don't know. It just sucks if that's the way Xbox is gonna go.
it is. It does. My biggest concern with it, and I know we've talked about this some, so I won't belabor the point too much. But the problem is like if it's just a digital game, can you ever truly say you own it? And there are circumstances where if a console just decides, no, your account's banned, you violated terms of service, for whatever reason, maybe you deserved it, maybe you didn't. But now your account's banned, you're not allowed to have the service. You just lost everything tied to that account, so
And
you don't own it.
all the money you spent, everything is just gone. And like it, I'm my favorite genre of game is JRPGs, and JRPGs already have a hard enough time getting physical releases.
So true. There is never enough to go around. At this point, I mean, like, not. I don't think we've gotten away with not bringing it up at all, in any episode since. But the Clair Obscure devs and Sandbox or Sandfall, I'm sorry, they are re-releasing everything you got with the collector's edition of Clair Obscure except for the game, right? So basically, the monolith statue, all the stuff that came with it, is they're reselling because they didn't expect it to do as well as it did.
Boy, did it.
I'm wondering if that model is what we're going to start seeing people do. And they're going to give you this special edition of the game, but they're just going to give you a code for the game and then like the statues that it would have come with, or the art book, or the soundtrack, or whatever it is. And if that's the case, I mean, that doesn't necessarily disincentivize, I guess, but it's if we're really coming to an end of physical media, I fear for what that's actually going to mean long term. If for no other reason than I mean the burden that owning that like having a full game places on a hard drive. Like, can you imagine how large the download file is going to be for EA6?
I don't think that information is out there, but no,
I
it's
can't imagine it
if
is yet, but
hopefully it's
the
optimized well.
download file, well, it doesn't matter if it's optimized. Well, that just means the update file won't be massive.
No,
But the actual game code itself, I mean,
if
there's
if it
no way.
if it's
There's
optimized
no
well, it won't
way.
take up. So you look at Call of Duty, right? Call of Duty, like Warzone and all that stuff. That game is no bigger than a lot of other games that release. Like it doesn't have more content. Like it has live stuff, but like that's live stuff. It doesn't have more content than a lot of other games. It's not like it's more graphically impressive than a lot of other games, and yet it's like it is an exorbitant amount of room. And there's a conspiracy theory that it's done that way so that it takes up more space on your hard drive, so you have fewer games to play, so you're more willing to play Call of Duty because you're like, I already installed it. I want to play Call of Duty, but I need other room. So there's a conspiracy about that, but that's neither here nor there. But no, a game, it matters how a dev handles uh, a game's optimization for how much room it takes up. I think, I don't know, but I do agree. I think GTA 6 is probably going to be pretty daggone big. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 is 131 gigs. But that makes
I just
sense.
I just looked it up. Red Dead 2, mind you, this is a whole generation ago. Red Dead 2 was 150 on some platforms.
Yeah, it's
It was
gonna be interesting.
99 gigs on release for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, but that was back when hard drives were like maybe if you wanted to upgrade it, a terabyte. If not, you were stuck with your 500 gig hard drive, which was actually like 380 because of all the system install. And so
Yeah,
you just chunked away a quarter of it on a single game,
yeah. I don't
or
know.
half if it was
I
150. I mean, so I all that is to say, obviously you can install and delete things at your leisure. I just the idea of not actually owning something that says that I own this and to give me the agency to play it as I will. I don't enjoy that as a consumer. Now, obviously, just because they haven't been assigned a SKU code yet doesn't mean they won't be.
That's the article
Uh,
does go on to say that. Yeah,
so like it's hard to say, it's unconfirmed, but if that is the case, I mean that's
I don't like it.
not my favorite announcement.
I don't like it. Because then you have the Switch 2's key cards or game keys. That's a thing. That's a whole thing. But apparently,
Switch to.
it doesn't matter that Nintendo's made some choices that people aren't very big fans of. Because in spite of everything that the Switch 2 and Nintendo have done, okay, so here's the thing. Whether you agree or disagree with what Nintendo has done, or whatever, with the pricing, the game key, whatever, whether you defend it or not, I don't know that, honestly, I expected it to become the fastest selling console of all time. In the first
Absolutely not.
24-hour period, I expected it to do well. I didn't expect it
Yeah.
to break that record.
Yeah.
It's like good for them because like I want anybody who makes games, I want them to succeed no matter what, right? Like games are games. I like playing games. I want anybody who has the passion for gaming to be able to make more games. But yeah,
Hmm.
I didn't think that they'd break that record, man.
I didn't either. Um I didn't either. It yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I mean it's yeah.
He's speechless. But all that to say, there I think with all this potential doom and gloom that Darren and I may or may not have, there's still so much exciting stuff headed our way. If you're into
Yep.
games or whatever, with the past year and a half, maybe even 2.5 years. The past 2.5 years have been so good
Yeah.
for gaming, man. So good, and it doesn't look like it's slowing down, and I love that for us.
Hmm.
So
Big fan.
please follow along with us as we explore more. Um, we are in the process of getting ready for another nostalgia episode in a few episodes down the line. Um,
Hmm.
maybe some other things, maybe some other like dedicated episodes dedicated to one game. We'll see if
Hmm.
there's anything that we want to do for that. Um, but with that said, next week, Darren, what do we got going on?
So next week back to our normal format. Um Definitely some obscure picks this time by the two of us. It's gonna be kind of interesting to see how this works out. For me, I'm going to play Raji the Ancient Epic by Nodding Heads, and it is their first game. This appears to be an action adventure platformer by an Indian developer, and it's their first foray into the gaming sphere. This game looks like it won quite a few awards based on
Neat.
some like screenshots of stuff that I've seen, which is really cool. So I look forward to playing it. Ryan will be attempting to convince me and the rest of you all to play The Alters by 11-Bit Studios, who are also responsible for This War of Mine, as well as Frostpunk 1 and 2. Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they also do Moonlighters? Because
Um,
11-bit does sound familiar to me,
uh,
or
no,
perhaps something else.
Moonlighters is Digital Sun and Crunching Koalas.
That's right. Digital
The
Sun.
11-bit studios.
They
You've
did
done.
Moonlighter too.
Oh, okay. So
So they
yeah,
did do. They are responsible for Moonlighter as well, and Children of Moria.
they're responsible for a few things.
Ha.
And I'm excited because the altars is a, it is a very very strange concept
Hmm.
where you are I think you're an astronaut, I think, and you basically have to make clones of yourself in
Oh,
order
sure.
to survive on this planet that you're on, and you build a space station in the same vein as XCOM and Fallout Shelter. But you also, I think, when you go and explore the planet, it's more 3D. But what's interesting is as you create these clones, they are alternate versions of yourself to the fullest extent. Like
Hmm.
basically, in each altar you create has its own set of skills based on the life that they lived. Basically, alternate universe, alternate like multiverse versions of yourself. Where if you want somebody who's strong, maybe you create a clone that was like a high level athlete, or you want somebody who can help you. Like for example, I don't know if this is something you can do, but like finding a dig site, you'd want somebody who was an archaeologist in this other multiverse. So it sounds absolutely wild. It's gotten pretty decent reviews, so I'm very excited to try it out.
Sure.
So that is our next episode. Thank you for listening to these old men ramble. Um, we appreciate anybody out there who's willing to give us your time. We appreciate feedback, suggestions, anything that you're willing to throw our way. Please follow us, subscribe, Convince Me Gaming, Convince Me Media. And with that said, are you
Are you convinced yet?
convinced?